$5 up there, but I wanted more. So when I found entrepreneurship, when I found direct selling, I got started. I immediately fell in love. I went out there, and in my first month, I got one customer. Yeah, it's impressive, right? How many of you out there have more than one customer out there? Make some noise. Yeah. You're already better than I was. That one customer, I got 1% of their phone bill. 75 days later, my third month as a network marketer, as an entrepreneur, I got my very first check in entrepreneurship. One customer, 1% of their bill. Do you want to know how much their bill was? $2. Anybody know what 1% of $2 is? Yell it out. My very first check, day 75 of my home-based business, was 2 cents. It cost 28 extra cents to mail that thing. For a stamp. My next check was 20-something cents. I'm sorry, 12 cents. First reaction with my 2-cent check. How many of you guys would have quit after a 2-cent check? How many guys, your first check was way bigger than 2 cents? My reaction after my first 2-cent check, holy cow, this works. Because could I have gotten more customers, yes or no? The only reason it was 2 cents is because of my fault. The next month, 12 cents. How many of you guys have been out? Month 5, second check, 12 cents. Who's out? May have been 14. 14 cents is what it was. I looked at it and said, are you kidding me? 700% growth. This is out of this world. From there, it went to $2. From there, it went to $12. From there, it went. My 6th check, my 9th month in the business, I had just bought a fax machine to send in all my paperwork. I still lived at home. I was 18 years old. My dad looked down. He saw my $27 check, my 6th check. I've made a total of $40 now in 9 months of network marketing. How many guys, your first check was bigger than $40? Make some noise. In 9 months total, I made $40. My dad looked down. He said, oh, congratulations. 9 more of those, and you can pay for the fax machine you just bought. But it kept going, it kept going, it kept going. I got to about $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. I moved to California. Where's California at? California in the house? And got it to $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, made my first $1 million. Well, on that journey in California, I did a presentation one day. This was on a college campus in like the university center. And I'm wearing a double-breasted suit at a college campus in the university center. This sounds a little weird already, doesn't it? Double-breasted suit, cufflinks. I'm making like $3-4 a month max. Max. I'm 21. And before I go in to speak, one of my leaders comes out, and it was a he. He says, listen, we've got a guy inside, and he brought 6 people, his first presentation. He's never seen a presentation. We didn't have websites with presentations back then. He just walked in, and he brought 6 people with him. He told 6 people, you got to come check this out. And they showed up with him from an entirely different college campus 20 minutes away. That's called, how many guys did not get 6 of your own family members to your own house for your challenge party? Okay. So for those of you guys who are like, that's not that big of a deal, this is a huge deal. You were already signed up. This guy had never even seen a presentation yet and walked in the door with 6 people. I said, I don't know who this kid is, but he's getting in tonight. I walked up there, did the whole presentation, just completely locked on this kid. The very next day, I did a follow-up meeting with him. He joined at my 7th level of my team, my organization. He ended up generating half my team, half my business, and that guy is this guy right here, your Chief Marketing Officer, Mr. Blake Mullen.
I just didn't want to show up by myself.
He needed a ride.
How many guys, the first time you saw ViSalus, you went home that night and the ideas were going through your mind all night long, right? How many guys, ever since you've got with Vi, you've had a lot of those sleepless nights where the possibilities, the ideas, the potential you toss and turn. I think some of you guys are going to have some sleepless nights this weekend. But I remember that presentation very, very well. First time I got introduced to another way. You see, a lot of people, they meet myself, Nick, and Ryan, and they hear the story of where we are today, and they assume we all came from some business background or business pedigree. You just heard Nick's background, mine a little different, but we share the commonality that we didn't come from some line of entrepreneurs. How many of you guys grew up in a conservative household? My mom, a principal, my dad, a cop. Not meant to be a joke, but thank you for laughing at my pain. I was brought up from a very early age. I remember stressing out about grades in 5th grade. Stressing out about grades in 5th grade because I was taught to be successful, you had to be smart. To be successful, you had to be what? How many of you guys were taught something similar growing up? So I followed that path to a T. All right, some of you guys have heard my story. It's a fact. I can still walk into my elementary school and still see my name on a plaque as the outstanding 6th grader. I can still walk into my high school and see my name on a plaque as the student body president. I graduated there with a 4.2 GPA. Went to one of the top 6 universities in the United States, down in Southern California. I graduated there with degrees in political science, emphasis in public law, and a minor in psychology. I did that in a total of 3 years, magna cum laude, Latin honors. Yeah. You say wow, I say why. Building the resume. Doing what I thought I was supposed to do. You know, it's interesting. I meet a lot of people now today traveling around city to city to city with Vi. And a lot of people aren't in college. They aren't in high school. They aren't the age that Nick and I were when we first met. But I meet a lot of people that still wake up every day and they spend their life doing things because they think that's what they're supposed to do. Not what they want to do. Not what they're passionate about. Not what they were put on planet Earth for. And Nick, I thank you for wearing that double-breasted suit that evening. And delivering. Nick Sarnicola does some great presentations, right, ladies and gentlemen? Right, ladies and gentlemen?
The man from the DVD.
And letting me have that sleepless night where all of a sudden I saw there was another way. You guys have heard the story, a lot of you. Nick and I partnered up. We ended up building a successful business at a really young age, becoming the youngest top income earners of that company. We spent 5 years grinding it out, sole focus, committed. How many of you guys are committed right now? You're putting your heart, your blood, your sweat, your tears into ViSalus right now. 5 years. 5 years all out. People following us. We were walking around. We were thinking like we were retired. We arrived by 25. And then 5 years in, Nick gets a phone call that nobody ever wants to get in this industry. Phone call from the owner. It says, guys, company's been struggling. Investors are done funding. We're shutting our doors. After Nick got that phone call, he called me, explained the story, and we had a couple options at that time. What do we do? My own mind, back of my head, right, all the things that I've been taught growing up. What, do I go to law school? Do I go get the job? Do I go follow the path that we were supposed to do? But how many of you guys realize that the more you share the challenge, the more people join ViSalus, the more you see stories like you just saw on stage, the more you realize that once you understand the potential of this business, the ability to impact lives, you're pretty much ruined. You don't ever want to do anything else for the rest of your life. Who agrees? Who agrees? Who agrees? So when it came to me with that phone call, we said there is really no other option. Let's figure out a way how to keep this open, how to salvage this. We made the commitment to each other. We made the commitment to our team. And then we realized, although we knew how to build an organization, we had no idea how to save a company. And all of a sudden, from Rich Paula, who I think is in the room, someone who I met in promoting that opportunity, all of a sudden we heard about this guy who was around our same age, from around the same town that I grew up in, and somehow he managed to build a startup company and sell it for $25 million. He was a young, aspiring entrepreneur, and Rich said, you gotta meet this guy, you gotta meet this guy. I believe the world opens doors at the right time for the right reason. How many of you guys believe that? So Nick and I made the commitment. We were going to find a solution. We didn't know what that solution was, and we knew we needed something that could show us the way to go out there and start something and build foundation for the long term. And in comes that door of opportunity, and we got introduced to a gentleman named Ryan Blair.
Yeah, it was pretty magical because I had heard Nick's story, I had heard Blake's story. Because there's this little thing that's taught in this industry called edification. And Rich Paula and a few other of the team members of Nick and Blake worked in my office at Sky Pipeline. And they literally, in their attempts to recruit me daily, tell me the story of a man named Blake who got all these honors and graduatory, cum laudes and lattes and espressos and all that other stuff. And they tell me about this guy, Nick, that was from the Midwest, who had been a leader of leaders. And I didn't really have a great connection to network marketing. In fact, my only experiences on the subject were, being ambushed. Like, people would say, hey, I need you to come, to dinner with one of my friends. And I'd walk into a meeting and there'd be like 100 other people in there and I'd get recruited, right? So my only experience was negative. And so Nick and Blake, their story was told by Rich Paula and a few other people to me over and over. And then I got to meet Nick. Nick and I didn't hit it off at first. Can you believe that? We didn't get along at first at all because I was really focused. I just sold my company, and Nick was really focused on saving ViSalus, as Blake had just said. And so Nick and I didn't hit it off. We had lunch together and kind of agreed that we'd keep in touch over time. And then, Blake had come over to my house. I guess it was probably about 6 months later. My house was in a city. It was in Marina Del Rey. In this country club, and I really didn't take the meeting seriously. I'd actually just come from the gym.
You showed up in sweats.
Yeah, I was wearing sweats. I'd sat down, and Blake sits down, and he's fully suited and booted, right? He's dressed to the T's. I come out of the gym like a slob, right? Just giving him 10, 15 minutes. At that time, I was really passionate about my health because, I let it slip away as an entrepreneur. I didn't value my health. I valued, building my business. So, my health was out of control. And I swore after I sold my business that I'd really focus on my health. I also was really passionate about the subject of entrepreneurship. For those of you familiar with my story, entrepreneurship saved my family and saved my life and created such a great opportunity for me. So I was passionate about that. And I really thought Nick was one of the smartest, strongest, driven individuals I'd ever met, but I just didn't see a way that I could work with him in his cause, which was ViSalus, because I was passionate about creating a social network called Path Connect, which was the idea behind that was to connect mentors with people who, were on similar paths or, seeking mentors, because my life had been blessed by a mentor. So Blake sits down with me in this cafe connected to the gym and country club that I'm a member of. He's fully suited and booted, and I'm in sweaty sweats. And he brings out this green binder. I'll never forget this binder. It's solid green. It's got 3 rings, all these glossies, and he begins to give me a presentation. Now, I had known a thing or two about sales, having had a large sales team at Sky Pipeline, having used the tools of influence to build all of my businesses, having taught the subject. Blake just sits down and proceeds to try to close me. And then he invented a whole new closing technique. For those of you that are familiar with sales, Blake is actually the founding father of a closing technique that's a secret. Most people don't know about this. In fact, it's never been trained before, I don't think. I think he invented it on the spot. And I got to tell you, it was almost like I had my force field up. Many of you guys joined ViSalus with a big wall up, right? You're like, I'm not going to join no matter what he says. I'm not going to buy. I'm not going to buy. I'm not going to buy. Man, I just found myself buying. Blake invented this, okay? He's got his green binder. He walks me through Nick's bio, which I already knew because, the team that had worked in my company had taught me Nick. He walks me through the founders. He walks me through the products. He walks me through Dr. Michael Seidman. He walks me through everything.
Flip charting, mind you.
Flip charting.
Chart. Flip.
And I'm sitting there going, all right, when's he going to do it? When's he going to close me? When's he going to go in for the kill? When's he going to do the ask? And he goes, Ryan, you're a smart guy. Here it comes. And he goes, maybe I could do a better job drawing this out for you. I'm like, okay, he's going to draw me a chart. That's cool. So gets a piece of paper out, gets a pen. He draws it upside down. But the visual, Blake is a pretty good drawer, artist. This is a pretty easy thing to draw. He draws, 8 by 11 piece of paper. It's white. He draws a line across the center of it. And he goes, this is a cliff. And then he puts a little stick figure right next to it. And he goes, the cliff is right here, and we are right here. Which really means you're like right here, right? Like if you're taking the time to draw a cliff and explain to somebody your financial situation, it really means you're holding on to that tree on the cliff, right? And I'm like smiling. I'm like, did he just cliff close me? I'm like, I've never seen a cliff
Give
close.
Give it up for the cliff close by Blake Moen, everybody.
Cliff close.
My best personal enrollment ever, Mr. Ryan Blair. Mr. Ryan Blair, hey.
Yeah. So long story short, I was like, wow, these guys are tenacious. I'd met Nick and saw his just discipline and focus, and he and I share a lot of similarities in terms of the way we're disciplined and focused. And Blake came in for the kill, man, and got me. And then I said, Blake, well, tell me about the assets of the company, And he goes, well, we have about $17,000 worth of these green binders. Swear to God. And I'm like, well, because they're like, we need investors. Like, yeah, any of you guys see the movie Step Brothers? It's one of my favorite. You know, the time where he goes, investors could be you. That's what Blake was saying. Investors could be you. And I'm like, so you guys have started this business and you're selling product, but you don't have any product in inventory. Nope, that's what we need you for, Ryan. But you got $17,000 worth of these green binders. Yep, $17,000 in green binders. So at that point, I was like, man, these two are going to be successful with or without me. They've got tenacity. They've got energy. They've got commitment. And I just said to myself, and that was 9 years ago to the date, how do I get involved? And that was how I got involved. And then, because I knew, and still to this day, one of the most lucky, in all gratitude, it was one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me was the partnership that I have with the two of them. And getting cliff closed. I mean, how many of you, it's a brilliant thing to experience. That said, Nick asked me, so I'd raised a few $1 million, and I'll never forget this. I'd raised money from a guy named Todd Gergen, who he had run his family's private equity fund, meaning he had about $50 million of his dad's money that he would invest. Todd was about 5 years older than me at the time, or he still is 5 years older than me.
Well, Ryan's been aging backwards, so he might be 6 or 7 now.
Yeah. So Todd, and I'd asked Todd how his family had created his wealth. I've always been very curious. And Todd explained to me that, his dad had started a small candle company and then built it into the world's largest. Now, as a technology entrepreneur, I wasn't excited by the idea of candles, but I was like, hey, that sounds like there's a lot of money, in owning the world's largest candle company. And I went to the website of the Gergen family's company and portfolio of companies, and I saw that they had something like 30,000 salespeople. Now, I remember thinking, how do you get 30,000 salespeople in a room? Because I'd had, a call center. I'd had inside, outside salespeople. I couldn't imagine having 30,000 salespeople. And that's what piqued my interest in direct selling network marketing, is the ability to create such a large external sales force on behalf of a company. And that's what they just happen to be experts in their company called Party Light. For those of you not familiar with it, world's largest candle company. Bob Gergen has been on the Forbes 400 richest Americans a couple of times. He's given away $100+ million to charity. He's got, hundreds of millions of dollars in art, and he did it through direct selling network marketing. So Nick sits me down and does the old network marketing, who do you know who? So he asked me, who do I know who? Who can I introduce him to? And I said, well, I know the Gergen family. And I know that the Gergen family, you know, they make investments in companies like ours. I know they have a lot of experience in the things that we do not, like international, how to build an international business. You know, I know a lot about this family, and I said, let's invite them in. And in fact, I wrote about it in my book. I shot Todd Gergen an email in April of 2005. Myself, Nick, and Blake formed our partnership March the 3rd, 2005, 9 years ago.
Happy birthday, everybody. Happy birthday.
Happy number 9.
And I called up Todd. I sent Todd a note in the email. I said, I'll be in New York. I'd never been to New York, by the way. But I said, I'll be in New York next week. I want to see you. Sat him down. Said that myself, Nick, and Blake were going to join partnership and make this happen. The Gergens invested $1.5 million. Oh, there we are, right there. Yeah, sorry. I thought you were whistling at me. I was going to say thank you very much. The Gergens invested $1.5 million through a series of getting to know them and working together. Blythe came to the table, the family, the holding company that the Gergens created, one of the most successful companies in our industry in the NYSE, publicly traded. They signed a deal in August. It was August the 8th, I'll never forget, of 2008 to acquire ViSalus and a structure that allowed us to actually build ViSalus over the next 5 years. It invested in the company, and they bought it at a premium. If you guys recall, in 2005, we got our launch. 2006, we built momentum. 2007, we really started figuring things out. In 2007, if I recall, we were about an $8 million company. In 2008, we're heading to, we just hit that $2 million a month mark. Blythe comes in, does the transaction. It gets celebrated in our industry on Wall Street. You know, we were millionaires. We had a huge future. We thought we were unstoppable. We were going to win, hands down. We had already won. It was great times. And then
2009 happened. How many guys remember 2009, by show of hands? How many guys were affected personally in 2009? Well, when you're selling a high-end anti-aging system, the ViPack, which is 80% of your sales. How many guys have used the ViPack and you love it and it works? I've used it for 9 years. But when you're selling a $125 high-end anti-aging system and people are losing their pensions, they're losing their jobs, their houses, their cars, everyone's getting everything taken away, the lows of the lows are being felt. Well, guess what? People stop buying a $125 anti-aging system. And at that time, we were a small company. In fact, if you were here before the challenge, in fact, we call it ViSalus BC. If you were in ViSalus BC, please stand up. These are your original founding ViSalus promoters. Give them some love. Come on. Let's go.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Thank you.
These guys had green binders. Y'all remember those green binders? These guys paved the way. Maybe I should have said this for all you guys. These guys stand up again. They paved the way. They kept us around. They kept us in business. They kept us alive so every single one of you could have the Body by Vi Challenge and you could be an entrepreneur. Give them all the love in the world that you can possibly give them.
Thank you, guys. Right now. Thank you, guys, so much.
Unbelievable. And here's what happened. Our sales fell by 60 to 70% in 12 months. We went from $2.5 million a month to $600,000 a month. Well, when you have $600,000 a month in sales, at the same time we had $600,000 a month in cash in the bank. At the same time, we were losing $600,000 a month in cash. That's 3 sixes that you don't want to line up.
$6 million in debt.
$6 million in debt. $6 million in debt, $600,000 in cash, losing $600,000 a month, $600,000 a month in sales. We are 1 month from out of business, if you can do the math on that. So here's what myself, Blake, and Ryan did. For the second time, first time was when Blake told you that the company went out of business, that we were the number one promoters for. We could have made any decision. You know what decision we made? We made the decision to take all of our life savings, take all the commissions that were owed to us, take every dollar that was owed to us, and start funding that company's bank account so our people never missed a check. And to this day, 9 years later, they have never, ever missed a check. December 2009. We did it again, December 2009, when it got the lowest, the low of the low, the bad of the bad. But you know what? We'd already seen worse than this. Me and Blake are looking at each other. This isn't that bad. We've been out of business before. We got the phone call where doors are shut, and we made it this far. We're not going anywhere. We are going to turn this thing around. We took every dollar that we personally had because our investors, they wrote us off. They literally wrote us off as bad debt. When I say wrote us off, I don't mean like your cousin's like, I'm writing you off. That's not what I mean. I mean, they literally said, we are going to classify you as bad debt so we can write you off on our taxes.
Public humiliation, to say the least.
And that's publicly announced. They're a publicly traded company. You know what we did? We took every dollar we had, we pumped it into the company's bank account personally, we kept the doors open, we launched the challenge, and I think you guys know what happens next, because that's what we do when it going gets rough. When it's all odds against you, we don't run from it, we don't hide from it, we go all in. And I don't know how many other founders in this industry can say that they'll go all in every single time that the going gets rough.
I think the saying goes, necessity is the mother of innovation. Survival of the fittest doesn't say the strongest survive. It says the most adaptable survive. And I remember being in that point, Nick, when we're sitting there going all in. And, oh, we were committed. We were all in. But then we're like, all into what? What do we do? I remember flying out some of our top promoters at the time, putting them around the boardroom in our LA office, saying, guys, we are committed. We know we'll get through this. We know we'll get through this because the only way we will fail is if we quit, and we don't quit. But how? Came up with the ideas that you guys know today, innovated the concept of 3 for free, innovated the concept of challenge marketing, the idea of putting a BMW low in the compensation plan, all the things that you guys promote and share the stories of today. Necessity is the mother of what? Innovation. And it's interesting because I don't think many of you guys know where you are right now. And I don't mean in the Yuck Center, the Yum Center, the Yuck Center, the Yuck.
That's the KFC Yuck Center.
Yuck Center.
Like,
I don't mean where you are. I don't mean where you are in Louisville. I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize what moment in time we're at right now. Let me tell you guys what happened. You know what happened to the challenge, but you don't know what happened when we launched the challenge. I remember coming up with the ideas, laying out the blueprint, laying out the plan, myself, Nick, and Ryan going city to city to city saying, this is the future. Yes, I know, it's a change. We went from selling the Vipack to now we're going to sell the Shake. We went from selling anti-aging and now we're talking about this challenge thing. We went city to city to city saying, we're putting a whole new tip of the arrow on this thing. Hello? We said, I know it looks bad right now, but watch what's going to happen. We said, buy into this new vision. Adapt, evolve, reinvent. Your life will never be the same. Follow this step. Forget what you've done in the past. Grab the new tip. You think everybody listened? You think everybody listened? No. Matter of fact, the majority of people at that time, little known fact, majority of people at that time in 2009, when we launched the 90-day challenge, the majority of people quit. The majority of people what? They quit. People don't like change. Few people stuck around. The second biggest group of people were the people that said, you know what, I'll stick around and I'll wait and see what happens. At least they stuck around. And then there were a few people that said, you know what, if you tell me this is where we need to go, if you tell me this is the future, if you tell me this is the tip that's going to reinvent ViSalus, if you tell me to march, I'm going to march. And started to get the Body by Vi Challenge, starting to get a little momentum. 3 for Free, BMWs, our first regional directors, national directors. And all of a sudden, we saw the early signs that it was working. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? And then all of a sudden, I remember Ryan and I don't remember where we were exactly that day, but I know Ryan and I were together, and we were traveling, and I remember sitting in the car, and all of a sudden, an email comes through both of our phones. And the email was from Nick. And what was the subject line of the email?
I quit.
Yeah. I quit. Ryan and I are like, oh, no!
Nick likes to use 4-letter words, so it was more than I quit.
It may have been an ing.
Yeah, quitting. Jerry Maguire, any of you guys see that movie? He wrote us the manifesto.
So Nick sends the email that says, I quit, and this mile-long, as Ryan said, Jerry Maguire memo. We read every single word as we were sitting there going, hearts in our stomachs. But literally, Nick saying that he believes in the model. He believes that we're about to go out there and do something that has never been done. He believes he sees the early signs. He wants to go out there and be the pace car. So he was quitting from his role as CSO in corporate to sign up for $4.99 as a promoter in the field from scratch. From scratch. Grabs Mike Craig and says, you're coming with me. And proceeds to go out there and prove the model is possible time and time again, attracting Kyle Passetti, Jason O'Toole, and making the Body by Vi 90-Day Challenge the #1 90-day weight loss and fitness platform over the last couple years with 3 million transformations and $1 billion. Thank you to Nick Sonicola, everybody.
These guys right here. Thank you, guys. But it's your ambassadors. Give it up for the ambassadors. Give it up for the 5 stars, the Royals, the Diamonds, the Crowns, the Globals.
I remember Nick vividly, Nick going to the field. I remember that email. My job was to go figure out how to keep these investors at bay, right? So that way we could get Nick enough runway, and myself and Blake could go work on the inside of the walls. I remember when Kyle Passetti, where's Kyle at? Kyle's somewhere in the room here, calls me and says, you better be ready. I can't do his accent too well, but you better be ready because I'm sitting in thousands of EPSs. And Mike Craig called me up and said Mike was our our vice president of sales. Mike fired me, in fact. The old expression, fire your boss. Mike had done that. So did Nick. And Kyle was one of their first recruits. And next thing you know, Kyle's driving in a ton of new people. And then Jason O'Toole and the team came. And then a variety of other people that I see here in the room, Tim and Holly, just a number of you guys that were here. Next thing you know, myself and Blake went to the back of to the back office and started building infrastructure to support you. So in 2011, I was at the Sarnicola's wedding. Nick and Ashley got married. I went to Nick and Blake and I said, hey, we have an opportunity to create something great here. But the infrastructure that we have right now is bursting at the seams. Some of you guys remember that, you couldn't even call into the call center. You'd have fast, busy signals. There was no mobile app at the time. There was no website because it kept crashing. You couldn't put in orders. The employees were just not of the right attitude. The investors that had written us off had hired somebody to replace me, right? How dare them? And the whole thing was falling apart. And I remember telling Nick and Blake, and I said, this will not be the legacy that I leave behind. A company that can't handle the orders, can't handle the success, and so it fails. Remember telling them that. And I said, I have a plan. I'm going to move to Detroit in the winter from Los Angeles when I could afford my own island at this point, right? So, I'm a warm weather boy, right? I'm going to move to Detroit. I'm going to build the infrastructure to support the volume and the capacity and the potential of the leadership of this company, because I saw great potential, and I still see great potential. And so we went on our run. I sat in Detroit. I resurrected a call center. Blake ran the LA office. Nick went out there in the field in conjunction with a number of people like Tony and Rhonda that were part of the old field, and we went on this billion-dollar run. And I'll never forget, there was a few moments that in this billion-dollar run. 2010, we did $36 million in sales. 2011, we did $220 million in sales. 2012, we did $620 million in sales. We surpassed our billionth dollar in sales last year at this very time. We surpassed our $1 billion. Those investors that wrote us off, well, now all of a sudden they were our friends, of course. Because we structured this agreement with them, they owed us a large check. And the amount of the price tag, of the final price tag, was $792.4 million. How many of you got $792.4 million? Raise your hand if you do. If so, I'd like to see you after the event here. But we went to them and we told them, we said, you can't pay us to go, because we're not going anywhere, and you can't pay us to stay. So just give us back our company. And we structured an agreement in late 2012 that allowed myself, Nick, and Blake to have what's called preferred shares, so that way we could guide this company into the future. And that way we could work together for the rest of our lives to build this company. The story, and I'll tell you, my belief is this. ViSalus is not 9 years old, right? We spent the first 5 years learning what not to do. And then the next 3 years, once we figured out what to do, we had to learn how to build infrastructure, learn how to work together as founders. We had to figure out how to structure this agreement with our investors so that way we could continue to govern and nourish and build our company together, right? Because without that, we had no security in what we were going to build. And it's only been a year, little over a year, that we've had absolute clarity in the three of us with our investors that we are going to build this company for the very rest of our lives, and that $1 billion is just the beginning. But that's now. That's what we're up to now. I can't wait to share with you what's going to happen in the future.
Guys, like I said earlier, I don't know how many founders will do what we've done the first two times, and I don't know how many founders will simply say, don't pay us what you owe us. We'll figure all that out later. All we want to do is grab this company. We want to take it across the world. We want to be the #1 company that's an agent to fighting obesity. We want to fight it 10 pounds at a time, 10 pounds at a time, 10 pounds at a time. We want to see belt loop after belt loop, story after story, and we want to fight childhood obesity at the exact same time. So we launched the Project 10 Challenge. Anybody heard of that? Make some noise out there. We are either the smartest 3 guys to ever run a company or the dumbest 3 guys to ever run a company. We're about to find out. Because our belief is $792 million in terms of the value of our company in 2012, that was not the end of the story. We didn't do this so we could get a bunch of money and go fly away somewhere and disappear. We are the average age of 35 years old between the 3 of us. What the heck are we going to do for the rest of our life? I mean, I don't know how to golf. I can't stand to hunt or fish. It's too quiet, too slow. There's only one thing that the 3 of us want to do. And we want to take the Project 10 Challenge that we launched 60 days ago, and we want to take it from living room to living room, from body to body, from city to city, from country to country, and we want to kick obesity's butt all across the world. What about you guys? Do you guys want to do that with us? Do you want to do that with us? Who wants to go take on obesity with the Project 10 Challenge? Let's go. Who wants to take it on with us? Do you want to take it on with us? That's what we want to do. What about all of you guys? We're in. Are you guys in? We're in. Are you all in? Who's in? Are you in? What will be your story? We are in. Are you guys in? Who is in for the remainder? Who is in for the future? Make some noise if you are in to take the Project 10 Challenge across the world. That's what we're here for. Let's do it together. Are you in? Are you in? We are in. Let's do it. Thank you guys very much.